Welcome to this video. I am calling this series of videos Active Phonics, so as to contrast it with the more knowledge-based approaches that tend to focus more on the details of phonics and on the knowledge of rules and sounds, and even sometimes on the precise teaching of the 44 phonemes in the English language. The child-centered approach to learning phonics that I'm suggesting in these videos emphasizes the development of children's skill in using phonics actively to make guesses, rather than on the knowledge of rules. The approach is also particularly appropriate for English as a foreign language learners. Perhaps the biggest difference between teaching phonics to English as a foreign language learners compared with teaching phonics to native speakers is that phonics is a central tool for developing the children's pronunciation skills as well as their reading and writing skills. Bottom-up versus top-down. I think teaching phonics has many similarities with teaching grammar. Both are usually taught with a bottom-up approach, starting with bits of knowledge and working towards the whole. There is a danger with both grammar and phonics that they don't transcend this, and that teachers and students get trapped in a bottom-up mindset, which can lead to an overload of information and a neglect of important skills. Teaching more and more difficult grammatical rules doesn't by itself lead to effective communication skills or enable students to deal with language in a holistic context, and may have a negative effect, especially by making students too focused on accuracy and grammatical details, and so hesitate to speak. In a similar way, analyzing and practicing phonics doesn't by itself enable children to read stories for meaning and deal with holistic context. We need to approach phonics in a way that prepares the children to make the transition from a bottom-up to a top-down approach to reading and writing, where the starting point is meaningful context, not bits of language. Phonics as a mental framework. Teaching phonics effectively is not about teaching knowledge. It is about making it easier for the children to connect bits of knowledge into a mental framework that enables them to make guesses about new things they encounter. In other words, it is about developing skills. The children need to build this mental framework themselves, through noticing patterns, making guesses, and experimenting through trial and error in engaging activities, which, for children, usually means in games and songs. While playing, the children need to learn phonics through a sequence that fits together well and is meaningful for them. The children discover each step and connect it with what they have learned in previous steps. The needs of the children varies. In this series of videos, I will introduce a step-by-step phonics sequence that works well in the kinds of classes I have been teaching for 40 years. You may be teaching in a very different situation and use a different sequence, but I am sure that many of the points I make can still be applied. There are a lot of factors that have an influence on which approach works best, such as the age of the children, and whether they are native speakers, English as a second language learners, or English as a foreign language learners. Though this distinction is not always clear-cut, because the extent to which children have been immersed in English varies so much. The origin of methodology for teaching phonics is also very important. A lot of popular phonics materials and methods of teaching phonics were originally developed for teaching native speakers of English, or second language learners who may have quite a lot of exposure to English even before encountering phonics for the first time. In my opinion, some of the techniques and assumptions behind these methods need to be questioned quite fundamentally when teaching phonics in a foreign language environment, or with children who haven't had a lot of exposure to English. And I will look at some of these issues in the following videos. The appropriate method also depends on whether the children already have some reading and writing ability, whether they use the Roman script in their own language, and quite a few other factors. I should mention that my own experience with teaching and designing phonics programs has been for children between 5 and 12 years old in 3 countries, none of which use the Roman script for their own native language. So, if you are not teaching in this kind of situation, you may need to adapt some of the things I say. Whatever the situation we are in, I think the key tests of a good phonics sequence are whether each step builds logically and almost effortlessly on the previous step. And when a child has a reading or writing problem, we need to be able to go back down the sequence, find where the problem is, and build back up from there. I should point out that in these videos on phonics, I will not say much about the role of writing and listening when teaching phonics, because I will look at both these skills in special videos. Thank you very much for watching. In the following videos, I will introduce practical ways to help children learn phonics quickly and deeply, and prepare children to move beyond phonics.